Here to discuss these escalating tensions with Iran is Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under the Obama administration. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be with you, Jill.
Okay, so we were trying to make sense of all this. What is behind the new tension between the U.S. and Iran?
Yeah, right now we're in danger of slipping into a direct military conflict with Iran, and it's largely one due to our own making. We are putting pressure on Iran related to the nuclear deal that we pulled out of, and we are raising sanctions pressure on them. We've designated their Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps a terrorist organization, and we are essentially trying to find different ways to trip up Iran. And it's been very difficult to watch. Iran has been a bad actor in the region for a number of years, but that was why we had a nuclear deal with Iran in the Obama administration. To see that unravel right now, we're really watching the guardrails of this relationship come apart.
So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has met with European and Russian officials this week. One of the things they're talking about is this situation with Iran. Do we know anything about how their talks went?
So we don't know much in terms of the details, but we do know that the optics were not good. The Secretary Pompeo met with European allies who have time and again told the Trump administration that they did not like our Iran policy, that they did not support pulling out of the nuclear deal. So you add that to Russia, who has been a longtime supporter of Iran, does not want to see the nuclear deal, and they're also party to it. And really, we're on our own. We have allies in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Israel, that don't want the nuclear deal, but they never were a party to it, and they've never really been strong supporters. So that's not a surprise. The danger is that our allies, and Russia and China in this case, who were supporters of it, view us as breaking the deal, and that means that we have less support for our further actions towards Iran.
Okay, so there are reports that Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan presented a plan to send as many as 120,000 troops to the Middle East should Iran attack American forces. What is the likelihood that that plan is going to go into effect?
Well, first and foremost, if Iran attacks American ships, we, the United States, have the right to respond, and we have enough troops, enough forces right now in the Gulf to respond. We have 30 to 40,000 troops stationed in the Persian Gulf and in Iraq. So that and in Syria a little bit as well. That's really not something that we should be contemplating. What was put on the table, this 120,000 number, is a much larger force. It's not to protect forces. It's actually to lead into an invasion. That is a large number, the kind that we haven't seen since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. I served in the State Department at that time, and it's very important for us to be clear. This is not authorized by Congress. There's actually been legislation opposing military action against Iran, and this kind of number would only be used for a kind of aggressive action towards Iran, not force protection. And it's troubling to see that kind of leak coming out, but clearly it's coming out because people on the inside are worried as well.
I'm glad you put that into perspective, just the fact that that would be the biggest troop movement since the Iraq War back in 2003. One of the concerns that some people have is that there doesn't seem to be this direct line of communication right now between the United States and Iran. Are you concerned that just military intervention is going to be the end game here? I mean, is there a way out?
You've really put your finger on it. We need to avoid conflict with Iran. If there is a conflict, it's a country 3 times the size of Iraq. It's not going to advance our objectives of preventing a nuclear weapon. They have agreed to not build one, and it's verifiable. The danger here is that we slip into an incident like what we've seen. Incidents happen all the time, that something triggers this kind of outcome. And also, frankly, the President Trump gets tricked into this, that he gets boxed in. And absent a direct lane, a direct channel, there could be miscalculations. The Secretary of State Kerry in the Obama administration had direct channels to the Iranians. He spoke with them when there were incidents, and it de-escalated, and they were resolved. Not always perfectly, but they were resolved nonetheless without having bullets fly. And this means we have to go through third parties. Third parties, by their nature, don't have our best interests at heart. They have their best interests at heart. We need a direct line with Iran. And it is important to mention, though, that Iran has chosen not to respond to President Trump's statement about the need for diplomacy. And then President Trump's national security advisor and his Secretary of State have been critical of that approach. So we're really at an impasse, and we don't have the two sides even agreeing on how to talk.
All right. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and National Security Expert Joel Rubin. Joel, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thanks,
really
Jill.
appreciate it.